Hey friend, imagine sitting in a bright, sterile clinic, perfectly healthy, while a surgeon tells you to lie down. He isn't there to fix a problem. He's there to cut out a piece of your body, your appendix, and perhaps your wisdom teeth as well. You aren't sick. You are just trying to go to work. But in the southernmost reach of our planet, a healthy organ is a liability. If an infection strikes during the 6-month darkness of an Antarctic winter, no rescue plane is coming. You are stranded on a continent that is actively trying to kill you. This is the entry fee for the bottom of the world. Antarctica is a land of silence and questions. It is a place larger than the United States and Mexico combined, yet it has no government, no permanent residents, and no history of indigenous tribes. Most people think of it as a dead, frozen desert. But if it is truly empty and worthless, why does it cost tens of thousands of dollars just to visit? Why are vast sections of it blurred out on our digital maps? And why is it the only landmass on Earth governed by an international legal fortress that effectively keeps the public out? For over a century, the ice was a frontier for the brave. Explorers could map its coasts and claim territories for their kings. But in 1959, everything changed. 12 nations signed the Antarctic Treaty, a document that put a lock on the entire continent. Today, 58 nations are part of this agreement. They say it is to protect the environment. They say it is for peace and science. But as you peel back the layers of regulation, the paperwork begins to look less like conservation and more like a restricted military zone. If you want to go to Antarctica today, you cannot simply buy a ticket. You need permission. For a private citizen, this means months of administrative work, environmental impact assessments, and proof of millions of dollars in insurance for a rescue service that might not even exist when you need it. You are forbidden from entering specially protected areas, which cover thousands of square miles. You cannot fly a plane over massive no-fly zones. If you step foot there without a permit, you face a prison sentence and staggering fines. We are told this is to protect a fragile ecosystem where a single footprint can remain visible for decades. But some wonder if we are being kept away from the surface to prevent us from seeing what lies beneath the ice. The ice is hiding a history we are told should not exist. In 1929, an archive in Istanbul revealed a map compiled in 1513 by an Ottoman admiral named Piri Reis. It showed the coastline of Antarctica with haunting precision, centuries before the continent was officially discovered in 1820. Most impossibly, the map depicts the coastline as it looks without the ice. Modern seismic surveys, using ground-penetrating radar, have confirmed that the bedrock matches those ancient lines perfectly. How did someone map the ground beneath 2 miles of ice thousands of years ago? The mysteries only deepen when you look at the military history of the ice. In 1946, just after the end of World War II, the United States launched Operation High Jump. This wasn't a small scientific team. It was a massive naval armada. 13 ships, 33 aircraft, and nearly 5,000 heavily armed men. Officially, it was a training exercise. It was scheduled to last 6 months. It was aborted after just 8 weeks. The official report blamed the weather, but the men who were there returned in a state of shock. Flight crews spoke of aggressive flying discs that could travel from pole to pole in minutes. They told stories of silver craft zipping over mountain peaks at impossible speeds. One Navy pilot, a flight engineer who spent years in Antarctica, overheard civilians at the South Pole base talking about going out to meet visitors. When he asked who they were, he was told they weren't human. Men in suits from Washington, D.C. would summon crews to private offices and tell them that what they saw in the no-fly zones never happened. "Gentlemen," they would say, "what you saw, you did not see. Even our modern physics is failing us here." NASA scientists recently detected high-energy radio pulses blasting out of the Earth through the Antarctic ice. These signals shouldn't exist. They defy everything we know about how particles move. Some theorists believe we are looking at a leak from a parallel reality, a fracture point where the laws of our universe simply break down. The physical barriers to reaching this place are just as absolute as the legal ones. To even reach the shore, you must cross the Drake Passage. It is the most dangerous stretch of water on the planet. Here, the world's strongest current is squeezed into a narrow gap between South America and the ice, creating waves as tall as a 4-story building. Over 800 ships and 20,000 lives have been claimed by these waters. For many, the journey ends here, in a state of violent nausea and terror, before they ever see the first iceberg. Once you arrive, the land itself is a hyper-arid desert. It is so dry that the air will suck the moisture out of your skin in seconds. It is so cold that temperatures have been recorded at minus 120 degrees Fahrenheit. At these extremes, steel becomes brittle and equipment simply shatters. If you wander away from your camp, a whiteout can strike without warning. The sky, the ground, and the air all turn the same shade of blinding white. You lose your sense of up and down. You could be standing on the edge of a crevasse, a crack in the ice hundreds of feet deep, and you wouldn't know it until you were falling into your frozen grave. This is why the travel window is so narrow. For 9 months of the year, the continent is essentially closed. When the sun sets in March, it doesn't rise again for half a year. The sea ice expands, doubling the size of the continent and trapping any ship foolish enough to remain. The darkness is total. It is a psychological pressure cooker where the wind never stops screaming. In 1961, a young Russian doctor named Leonid Rogozov felt a sharp pain in his lower right abdomen. He knew the symptoms: acute appendicitis. He was the only doctor at his station. The weather was too bad for any plane to land. He had 2 choices: die or perform surgery on himself. With 2 non-medical assistants holding a mirror and a lamp, Rogozov cut into his own flesh. He worked for 2 hours, nearly fainting as he moved his own intestines aside to find the infected organ. He survived, but his story is the reason why today, if you want to stay for the winter, you must leave your appendix behind in the civilized world. We are told that all of this, the surgery, the permits, the no-fly zones, is for the sake of science. And there is incredible science happening there. Deep beneath the ice, Russian scientists spent 20 years drilling into Lake Vostok. They found a body of water the size of Lake Ontario that has been sealed away from the surface for 15 million years. When they finally broke through, they found life. Microbes that have evolved in total darkness and crushing pressure, thriving on chemicals instead of sunlight. They represent entirely new branches on the tree of life. They are a reminder that the ice is not a tomb, but a time capsule. But there is another factor that the world's governments don't like to talk about: the prize. Antarctica is the world's largest resource reserve. Beneath that ice lies an estimated 500 billion barrels of oil and gas. It holds 70% of the world's fresh water. There are massive deposits of gold, platinum, and rare earth elements. Under the Madrid Protocol, mining and drilling are strictly banned, but this ban has an expiration date, the year 2048. In just over 2 decades, the treaty can be opened for revision. Already we see nations positioning themselves. China has rapidly expanded from 0 to 5 research bases. They call it research, but many believe it is resource mapping for the day the ban lifts. Russia conducts operations that have nothing to do with penguins. The United States' largest station is operated by a defense contractor. The legal fortress is not just there to protect the penguins. It is there to maintain exclusive access to something incredibly valuable, while keeping the rest of the world locked out. We are surface dwellers peering into a lockbox. As the climate shifts and the ice thins, the secrets we've kept buried are beginning to breathe again. Strange geothermal heat sources, twice as hot as they should be, are melting the ice from underneath. Massive voids, large enough to hold entire cities, have been detected deep within the ice sheet. You aren't allowed to go to Antarctica because you aren't supposed to know what is happening at the bottom of the world. We are told it is a dead continent, yet we are required to mutilate our own bodies just to be there. We are told it is a land of peace, yet it is guarded by the most restrictive laws in human history. We are not the owners of this land. We are merely guests, permitted to see only what is choreographed for us. Antarctica is not just a place. It is an enigma wrapped in ice, a ticking time bomb of geopolitics and ancient history. And very soon, the ice may finally finish speaking, whether we are ready to hear the truth or not. The bottom of the world is waiting, and 2048 is closer than you think.